China's tariffs against some U.S. farm products in effect now. It's a response to tariffs placed on Chinese goods by President Trump.
As our Johan Marin reports, farmers nationwide and here at home are bracing for potential impact.
American farmers are in limbo as China begins putting tariffs on U.S. farm goods.
The United States will be very strong with what's happening here. Now, these are countries and companies, foreign companies, that have been ripping us off.
At Thompson Farms, farmer Scott Thompson is getting ready for this year's planting season. He grows corn and soybeans. Both items are on China's list for tariffs.
We're one of the main exporters out of this country. We do rely on exports. There's a container company in Council Bluffs and Fremont that we've sold soybeans to that ship out of this country.
Thompson worries about the new tariffs.
It could affect the prices negatively, but hopefully we find other uses for that grain.
According to Nebraska's Farm Bureau, Nebraska sells China about $2.1 billion worth of grain products annually. Chinese officials promised to put a 15% charge on chicken, wheat, and corn, and a 10% charge on soybeans, pork, beef, and fruit.
If this goes on for extended amount of time, just 10% on that $2.1 billion would be, $210 million. Less dollars that would be coming into Nebraska if they.
Mark McGarg with the Nebraska Farm Bureau says the new tariffs could also impact the everyday grocery shopper.
Countries do collect the tariffs and the taxes. And so if they collect that, the cost of goods on both sides go up.
Both McGarg and Thompson say there's a lot of uncertainty with the rapid developments, but they're hoping they're temporary.
I'd much rather receive your income from the sale of products, not some sort of financing or money coming from the government to kind of make up for it.
We're still trying to work through what happened in 2020, and I'm pretty optimistic.
In Omaha, I'm Johan Marin, First Alert 6.
A report from NBC News says that the Chinese government also promised to block 15 U.S. companies from buying their products unless granted special permission. This includes a manufacturer of drones that supplies the U.S. military.